Remember the Concorde? Oh, you're too young for the Concorde. You're too young for the Concorde. Used to fly into outer space, right? What did they find out? There was no curve to the Earth. What did they find out? They can go but so high. The dome would cut them off. So they began to say, okay, we have to get rid of this. We have to cause it to crash. And say, well, we found a problem with the Concorde. Well, if you found a problem with one of the planes, why would you stop the entire service? Okay, nobody even thought about that. The reason for that is too many people looking out of that little hole, because the holes of the Concorde is about that big, were seeing that the thing was straight across. There was no curve. Because if you're flying in outer space, you're not supposed to see anything. In fact, if you're flying on a curved Earth, and you're flying this way, if you don't follow the curved Earth, you'll be flying off into outer space, wouldn't you?
Right.
You don't ask the pilot, are you constantly adjusting to go down? No, you're not. You're flying straight. We spoke behind the scenes about that. You know, what's about this flat Earth? Because I was reading someone who's very profound information. Matter of fact, I always carry his book around. You should see one of his books up there. See the book up there?
Worlds Beyond Poles.
Worlds Beyond the Poles. You got to see that book. That book became the catechism for a while, but when I told him about, I got the old manuscript on it, they said, don't talk about that. They said, because the people who are the astronomers were dying. They were being like suicided. He just shot himself in the head because of what they were finding. Supposedly, the guy that you see that is in the wheelchair, what's his name? That's a super...
Hawkins.
Hawkins. He wasn't like that. They caused it because of what he found. And that's not him speaking. That's somebody else speaking through a microphone because he can't speak. So that's, you're watching orchestration. It's all game. But as far as flat Earth, we never taught flat Earth. It's a flat plane. It doesn't end. There is no end to it. There are different areas of habitation. But in our specific envelope, we are in what we call a kind of a Merkaba field. And it's not glass, it's made of what I, at the time, back in those days, said was compressed hydrogen. Now, how do you compress hydrogen? There's no way to compress something that's the first element. Well, they just did it. Now that they did it, everybody's saying, well, yo, Dr. Valentine, I remember you said that the dome was made of compressed hydrogen, and that it was mind-blowing, but now, a little Indian boy, along with a European scientist, actually got hydrogen to a particular way. I don't know how it does it scientifically, so now it's reflecting. You could never get a reflective surface from a hydrogen molecule, but now it's reflecting. So now we're beginning to see that everything being water in different densities, your air is water, it's just that you're created for a different type of water environment. Oxygen is water, and so is water. So fish breathe there, you breathe here.
Right.
So, being on a flat plane, everything essentially above as below, there are entities in second and third and fourth and fifth dimensions that are directly above us on their own flat plane looking up at us and you looking up at them. It's like a deep situation, and don't even try to, what do you call it, but I can't speak on it because that's what we teach, so you know, I won't give too much away. But I let you know that it's a plane. It's not an earth, a flat earth. All of it is a plane. It's the infinite plane actually giving a reflection to the eternal mind, God. See, the God being eternal cannot create anything other than itself. So it doesn't create in little spots. It creates in accordance with its own infinitude, with its own nature of infinity and eternity. So you cannot just say, build here, build here, build here, and then nothing but space. No, everything is the mind of the Creator. And as the mind of the Creator, it is infinite. Just like you are eternal. We have nothing to do with Republican or Democrat. There's no such thing. There are only corporations that mask themselves as countries. And so what he now became was the CEO of a corporation called the United States. So no matter who they put there, the people who pull the strings and flip the switches on those corporations were the ones that dealt with it. So when I looked at his backstory, I knew, of course, where his father came from. But most people didn't know that at the time, whenever you see their factions within the so-called ruling elite, there's always one secret society fighting one another secret society. So right before Trump became president, I put it out there on Facebook that he had gone to Scotland and traveled Ireland and Scotland, where his roots came from. And he was given the monies and the next step in from the CFR and of course all the rest of them. But he was a part of what was called the Lodge of Solomon. So he's one of the original Masonic lodges. And once he went there, they said they were going to back him. They were going to, you'll be the next president of the United States. So everybody kind of braced themselves for that. It didn't matter to me who was president because I knew what the game was. But when Trump became president, essentially it was about ending a specific hierarchy who was in charge. A new hierarchy came in, but it was the same work. See, what they do is they have to make sure that you don't get used to or figure out one leadership so that you can countermeasure. They switch you over to a whole other, but it's the same puppeteer playing the same strings. So the thing that I was more concerned about was even putting in Hillary, because Hillary is gangster. She's straight up gangster, but she smiles and she's, what do you call it, but no. She's straight up gangster, she got bodies, she got everything. So putting her in would have been pretty much the same thing, but we would have been already at war with somebody. So we are either to choose the apple or the orange, but then both came from a tainted tree. The problem is that we are not prepared to do any counterattack or countermeasures. We're not prepared. So they're moving along, and I would tell everybody by the year 2020, we'll get into year 2020 to year 2025 and then 2050. These are the pivotal points that you're going to see the New World Order finally step out into the light. And when they do, they'll have shown everything. But are we prepared to take the next step to counter that? We're not. It's going to be countered by the people. Are the people going to wake up and know that Black Lives Matter, the New World Order, all the rest of these are all linked? Hopefully one day you'll begin to understand that there are no factions. There are only corporations who are pulling the strings, who are setting us up for a genocidal move towards cropping the populations of the planet and removing a certain amount of useless eaters and useless breeders. Now, this sounds like conspiracy theory. You better understand that as we move towards transhumanism, from the time what they call the construction, the new constructive era, when they started dealing with more technologies after World War I and World War II, they needed bodies to mine the fields in the slaves so they could pick cotton, make sugar, and to pick sugar cane. When they began to mechanize, they needed less bodies. Now that they've become computerized, they need less people to do the same thing, to control and to rule. So they have to get rid of all the people that they allowed to be born, who they had nothing, they had no future to actually allow them to be in. So now that they have this surplus of people, you got to create wars and stuff so we can start cropping the population. The people they're sending over there to the Middle East and so, they don't want them coming back. You have to understand that. These people are cannon fodder. They'll come back. The ones that come back, you're supposed to salute and to fly and all that. No, there's no country. There's no flag. There's no anthem. These are for the people who are what we call the sheeple, or the thousand-headed ass. They need a rallying cry because the elite need to know that the people under them are under some form of control. If they're fighting one another, they don't look at the elite who's creating the conditions, and they don't fight at them. These people who are in control, they guide human nature to what they want human nature to be. And they have the plans and the resources in place to make sure that the paradigm that they're creating for you to believe in has the support, so that the commercials, the movies, the television shows, they all dovetail into the plan itself. You're being orchestrated, like they said in the Matrix, you're being orchestrated. So what we're looking at, essentially, is what we teach in our school, we call it synthetic synchronicity. What is synthetic synchronicity? If I set up a pattern of behavior and I have a goal, problem, reaction, solution. If I have a goal to achieve, then I know I need to make sure that there are certain things in place so that those who are to be the cattle that move along a specific pattern to end up at that goal must see certain things in place to reassure them that that goal is something that they should believe in. What happens? Who's a playwright writing a movie? Well, somebody is doing that. It was called, I think it was Zbigniew Brzezinski, a blueprint for a new America, or blueprint for a new United States, or something like that. Those of you out there know what I'm talking about. They already planned 70 years ago to 100 years ago exactly where we would be going, technologically, socially, educationally, and everything else.